Welcome to another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My guest today is Ron Sharon. He is a vice president of information security for a major financial services company. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Ron, we'll talk a little technology, but really what I wanted to talk to you today, and it's kind of a funny subject, is salespeople and how they approach you and all that. Because I see you on LinkedIn. That's how I first got connected with you. And you kind of have a lot of fun with salespeople. So we'll get that in a minute. Get to that in a minute. But as a vice president of information security, you've been doing this a long time, like your CISO, CIO, whatever you want to call it. Especially at a financial services company, I got to believe this is a tough job.
Yes, it's very challenging at times. A lot of things are happening all the time around us, and we're just catching up with them or just seeing how they act inside the financial industry. It's amazing. Like we're always dealing with something new.
Yeah, no, I can. And these hackers, they're getting good at it. I mean, they are good at it. There's all sorts of different techniques they use. And, but as I talk to people, I'm in sales, I work for, IT consulting companies. You talk to our customers, that I see a lot of internal training going on. And I don't mean just the nuts and bolts of training. I think it's the strategy around it and having the employees be part of the solution versus shaming people. What do you guys see around that?
Yeah, of course, shaming people into security, that's never a good solution. The people that work with us, they're our partners in this. It's a corporation. Everybody needs to cooperate to make a company more secure. It's in everybody's interest to do it. The way we train people is just, look, everybody trains people. Show them how to do things. If they falter, we don't shame anybody for faltering. We just say, hey, what, something happened. Let's review our processes and procedures and move forward from that point on to make sure you have the correct education to handle if something happens. So educating the users, educating the people around us, that's where it's all about.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. That's what we see, the same thing. Because think what's going to happen if you shame someone and make them feel guilty and penalize them and threaten them with being fired. What are they going to do? They're not going to come forward.
Exactly. So there's no plus side in shaming people. You don't want anybody to hide anything that's happening in the field. You just want them to come to you and say, hey, something happened. I did this. Great. Let's solve it together. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. What are the latest techniques that you're seeing hackers use out there? I mean, there's the phishing ones, spoofing.
The phishing one is always number one because that's the easiest way to get into someone's systems. We've noticed in the last couple of years a shift. So hackers are no longer trying to hit they're trying to hit big corporations or big companies or companies in general, but now they're going after the end users because it's a much easier point of entry for them. The end user doesn't have an IT team. They don't have a cybersecurity team. They don't have a robust protections like companies, corporations have. So hackers right now target those people in order to gain entry into some sort of a corporate environment because that's kind of easier to do it. Or even we saw it a long time ago, starting with the Target hack that I believe it was an air conditioning or a refrigerator technician company got hit. His laptop got hit. And that's how hackers gain interest into the target systems. It's all connected. All the systems are connected, all surrounded. So they're just picking targets which are easier to get into, and then they're moving into the bigger targets from there.
Yeah, and once they get in, they kind of lay in wait for a while, correct? I mean, they kind of lurk and go east to west.
Yes, they're very patient. So there's a lot of hacks that it's not they gain entry and they do something right away. Sometimes they wait 3 months, sometimes they wait 6 months until they're doing something. And it's just because if it's a ransomware attack, for instance, and you go back 3 months in your backups, you're still infected because they were in your system for 6 months. So sometimes companies keep 4 months of backups. 6 months of backups is stretching it. So they lie there and wait to the good. When it's a good opportunity, they jump in and hijack systems.
Yeah. No, I think it used to be security, in my opinion, security used to be we don't have budget for it this year. We'll wait till next year. And then it's not a problem until it's a problem. Right. Then everyone scatters and looks for a solution and hires, security companies to come in and do a remediation.
Yeah, it's much more in your face today because everywhere you see in the major news, CNN, major outlets are reporting on day-to-day activities of hackers now, so you can see it. So it's a lot more easier than it was 10 years ago, where you talk to people about cybersecurity and you're just like, it's never going to happen to us because we're
Yeah.
not big companies enough. But now it's happening to big companies, small companies, and to individuals as well. So
Yeah.
it's much better than it used to be.
Yeah. Good. So, as a CISO or CIO or VP of security, however, whatever term, folks like you have, what's your number one role? Like when you get up in the morning, right? My job is to do what? And I asked, I kind of know the answer to that, but I kind of want people that are not super familiar with what you do to kind of get a general idea.
Well, we wake up and our whole role is to protect the data, protect the information of people, protect the information of employees, your photos. If you work for Facebook or Instagram, that's what they do over there. Or my job is in a financial institute, of course, is to protect the data and the financial data of our clients and of our employees, because your employees also have data stored in systems that are in the company. So always protect data of customers, end users, employees, whoever you're working for or with. That's the sole goal of the security people, to just protect.
Yeah. No, and then I see you've been doing this for a long time. And do you actually enjoy it?
Yeah, of course. I think I call us the James Bond of technology world. So
There
we're
you
out
go.
there in the shadows, fighting for everything to remain secure and just remain secure.
Yeah. And you can't let up. That's the problem with it. It's not like, okay, you caught someone, you're all set. No, it's like tomorrow you wake up and there's someone else trying to get in.
Yeah, there's not just one person or one group out there.
Yeah.
It's nation states, it's small groups, it's even young people that just downloaded something from online from the dark web that can try and do some real harm with
Yeah.
some. They're called these little kits, that hacking kits, script kits that can do real harm. So it's everyone. Like, it's a lot of variables all the time.
Cool. Well, on the flip side of that, what don't you like about being a VP of security?
There's not a lot of that I don't like. It's just, sometimes it can get very late at night, and I have a young child and a wife, and sometimes my wife does not like it when I stick around in my home office too long. She shows up in a very angry face at the door. It's
Yeah.
like, babe, you have to go to bed now. It's like
Yeah.
11:30.
That's
So that's
funny.
kind of sometimes, it's because
Yeah.
it's never ends. You have
Well,
to
that's
set
it.
yourself you have to give yourself limits.
Yeah. No, and you hit it right in the head. I mean, it's not a 9 to 5 job what you do. It's 24/7. I always refer to the Godfather movie when I think it was Hyman Roth says to Michael Corleone, "This is the life we chose."
Yeah, this is the
Right?
life we chose.
This is the life you knew getting in. It's going to be weekend. It's going to be nights. Hopefully not every night, but that's the way it is with cybersecurity.
It's always morning somewhere in the world.
That's right. And there's always someone there's always a lot of bad guys out there that want your money and want your data. Cool. Well, hey, I want to switch directions now. This is actually the real reason I want to have you on. So I'm a sales guy in technology, and someone like yourself would be a type of person that I would be calling on. And what prompted me to kind of reach out to you is I've been following you on LinkedIn, and you really rail against salespeople that just add no value. So it's actually pretty funny, to be honest with you, but there's a lot of truth to what you say. So we'll start out, I guess I'm going to title this section like how not to sell. So, you're out there, and I ask this to everybody, you must get hit 100 times a day by salespeople, correct?
That is correct. Yes, 100 times a day.
That's not even an exaggeration,
It's not an
correct?
exaggeration now.
So, when you look for a salesperson or a sales organization, what are the things you look for that separate that company from the guy who just lobs stuff at you and wants to sell you stuff?
Well, there's a couple of things that needs to align. First is the need. Do I need it right now? Um, if I don't need anything and somebody wants to engage with me, hey, just take a look at this product for 30 minutes, but I don't have any plan in the next year or so to purchase some product, I'm like, well, it's going to be a waste of 30 minutes. So the number one thing is, I would appreciate if somebody asked me, does this align with your next purchasing cycle? Are you even interested in buying it? Not just drop me some product out of the sky and say, hey, buy it because we're so good. Sometimes I'm not looking. The other thing would be, just create some value so I can see what the company does. Because a lot of the times, people just use marketing keywords. We do zero trust. One of my biggest pet peeves is somebody that tells me we do zero trust. And I'm like, okay, just you and a million other people do zero
I was going to
trust.
say, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What differentiates you from the other million companies that emailed me in the past year about their product? We are top of the line AI machine learning. And I'm like, great, just you and about 50 million other companies do top of the line AI and machine learning, which is right now the key marketing keywords. So I would appreciate give me real value and less marketing keywords. It's like I'm glad you're using it. And sometimes my biggest pet peeve is when I see people using automations on LinkedIn, and I understand automation. I love automations. But when you clearly an automation and you're sending it to a million other people at the same time, and it's kind of not, personalized, it's like, I'm just one of a million people, and you're just throwing a huge net or hoping somebody comes back to you.
Yeah, someone raises their hand.
I'm not into that.
Yeah. No, it's funny. One of my pet peeves on LinkedIn is, say someone reaches out to me and wants to connect, and I hit the accept button. Within a millisecond, I have an email in my in-mail box telling me how wonderful they are and that they want to sell me something. And I'm not even in a position to buy anything, to be honest with you. But it's that's one of my biggest pet peeves is let's so I have no problem if someone reaches out to me. I've got a podcast, so I've got people that want to be guests on the show, and it's nice. They reach out, hey, I'd like to have a discussion sometime. I do this, that, and the other thing, and would love to have a conversation. So they don't pounce. They don't just like try to,
My biggest thing is create value, and people will come to you. Like, you don't need to sell. So the biggest secret, I think, for sell people is to create value that will attract people to come to you. So you don't need to do that major reach out to a million people, cold calling. Like, my phone in my company that I work at has been on do not disturb for the past 4 years. Because if it wasn't on do not disturb, I would have gotten daily phone calls, about 20 of them, 20 of people that found my number online and calling to see if I want this wonderful service. And I'm like, I can't work. I need to do work. My job is not just picking up a phone call and refusing people that want 30 minutes of my time.
Yeah. And so you touched on a good point. I think most organizations, when they have nothing else to really revert to, they revert to cold calling, and they browbeat all their sales reps into, you got to make 50 calls a day, when we all know it doesn't work.
Yep. It doesn't work. It might have very low percentage of working, but is it actually worth the effort? I don't think it does. Just as an example of a great way to build a community around yourself and just being friendly and just creating good content is on LinkedIn. I have some friends that they are salespeople, but they don't sell to you. What they do is, okay, once a month, I have a LinkedIn Live where we can talk about cybersecurity or whatever you want. Okay, we don't have to talk about cybersecurity specifically, but let's open let's open like the lines. Let's talk to like people. Let's be more of a community. And I'm like, that's great, because right now, if I need something that relates to what she's selling, I'm going to think about her, because she never pushed anything. She never tried to sell many things. She just created good content. She created good community, a good conversation. Now,
she's separating herself.
She's separating herself. It's the long game. You don't get instant gratification, which is, I know, what everybody wants right now. But you don't get instant gratification, but it's a very worth long game, because you're going to get a lot of loyal clients that way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, playing the long game. I completely agree with that. And unless you're selling like candy bars or something where it's commodity type sales, but what, you and I do, this is long-term relationships, long-term solutions. And like, if you make a decision to go with a certain solution and it doesn't work, that's going to greatly impact you, your company, everyone around you. So you've got to make sure that the person that's selling, because I think more importantly, a guy like me, we have to be honest with you and say to you, this is not a good fit for you. And these are the reasons why, as opposed to just trying to sell you stuff. And I think you tell me, would you respect the salesman more for telling you that we're not a good fit versus we're a fit in the long run?
Yeah, of course. I never had it actually happen to me personally. Like it's always our solution is great, and then later on you find out it's not so great. But I
Yeah.
would really appreciate if somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, I looked at it. Like I'm glad you want to be our client, and we're happy to have you. But I don't think we're gonna work out just because this is not a great fit at the moment. Once your company is either bigger or have more presence on platform X, then we'll be a good fit." I would
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's like, just as an example, a long time ago, I had a conversation with a company that tried to sell some sort of a secure API for Azure. And I said, I'm not for Azure, for AWS. And I said, well, we don't really have a presence on AWS. And they're like, well, if you ever heard, well, it does also this, and that. And I'm like, well, if I can't use 100% of your platform, why would I pay for it? Why would I pay
Yeah.
only if I can use 20% of it? It would be great if they just says, you know what, Ron, I agree with you. If this is not a good fit right now, call us, keep us in mind when your AWS presence increases. I'll be great, not a problem.
No, I think that's a great, I think, you know, an unhappy customer is worse than having 10 happy customers because, again, if you sell something that's not going to work, no one wins on that one. And everyone's unhappy. It's, we just, we personally just had a situation where we had a, customer looking at some backup solutions and they had one in mind and we had to go to them and say, hey, this isn't going to work for you. But we gave them data points like this is not a good situation because of your environment. And so I think the customer really appreciated it and we moved on to other solutions that we felt like would be a better fit for him.
Yeah. And I think the customers will really appreciate it if you're honest with them. And salespeople always need to keep in mind that they're not going to work in the same company for 40 years. They might go
Yeah.
to a different company there is some solution that I'm looking for or somebody else in my position is looking for. But if you maintain that personal relationship and you weren't pushy and you weren't like those cringy salespeople, then yeah, they'll think about you, whatever solution you give. They say, hey, I know this person. They're great. They're selling XYZ now. I need XYZ. I'm going to talk to them.
Right. Yeah. And you hit it right in the head that, it's about trust at that point, right? You've got to know that, and that's where all sales, I think, I can't speak for all salespeople, but most salespeople want to get to that point where you have that open, trusting relationship where you can be brutally honest with a customer. And I think they would appreciate it more than just giving them a line of BS.
Yeah, that's true.
So one thing I think we touched on a little bit earlier, I felt like I've been selling for a long time and the sales game has really changed. If you go back 30 years ago, customers really need, this is before the internet, before even laptops or there was very little information out there. Customers really needed salespeople to supply information, right? Now it's so hard for a sales guy to make an impression, kind of like we talked about earlier, because there's so much information on the internet. Like you probably, I think the statistics that I hear is about 67% of the time people go to the internet and social media to get their information before they even call a salesperson. Would you agree with that? Is that a
Yeah,
fairly
I think that's totally underestimated. I think it's even higher than that.
okay?
The first point that people my generation, I'm a Generation X millennial border kind of, but people in my generation and people, of course, millennials, Generation Z, they'll go online to find something.
Yeah,
Later generations, they go to other places now. They go to TikTok or YouTube to find information. So you don't call a rep right away. You research. You use keywords like, okay, I need the best EDR system. And then you have all these comparison and all these other companies that did work on comparing the best EDR system. Of course, each website has their own kind of way and parameters to
sure.
compare these systems, but that's what you do. And then you go on the website and then you look at the website and then you look at the competitor website. So by the time if you reach out to a rep, by the time you reach out to someone, you've already very well educated on their capabilities. and what they can do. The only thing you need to shoot to look at is like something like a demo. How does it actually look like behind the scenes?
Yeah. In your environment.
How much money is it going to be? Because most of these companies don't give you a straight answer on licensing. You have to call them and you have to negotiate a little bit.
Yeah.
How flexible they are with their licensing, because you want to know if you can get some discounts. So you're skipping the education side almost, because you already well know what the capabilities of a platforms are.
Yeah, it's funny you touched on something. I mean, you've been doing this a long time too. The pricing models have drastically changed over the last 4 to 5 years. I mean, it seems like subscription and consumption models are, no more perpetual licensing, right? It's all just,
Yeah. Yeah. I tried to look. Somebody asked me, "Can I just buy Microsoft Office? I want to buy like just a suite. I want Word, Excel." And I'm like, what? I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
It turns out you can. But I didn't even know that you can still do that, because it's somewhere hidden on the Microsoft website in a click somewhere that you can still buy. I think Word, Excel, PowerPoint is a downloadable, of course, but it's not without any kind of a yearly license. But now everything is a yearly license. I was looking at editing softwares. Most of them right now are. And since I don't use a Mac, I don't have an option to use the Final Cut Pro. I think it's called the Mac version of it. But I can't use it because I don't have one. So I was looking, and a lot of them are like $20 a month, $30 a month, $49.99 a month. There is a couple that you can actually still download and install, and that's it. You own them. But a lot of them, I would say 90% is just pay to play for per month or per year. And once you stop playing, your product stops working. So you can't have it like in the good old days.
Yeah.
I had Word 2001 or Word 2005, and I kept it for 8 years because I didn't want to change it.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't want to, and they they force you to upgrade, right? Well,
Yeah.
one advantage.
It's a part of the yearly subscription fee you upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a one advantage of the subscription model, is that you're getting the latest and greatest all the time, right? And it's all web based.
Yeah, a lot of the new things are web based. Again, it's very hard to find just things that are on your local computer. They're just installed. But those also have the yearly or the monthly subscription model. It's not just web platforms.
Yeah. So where do you see it going in the future? I mean, do you see any changes? I mean, you talk to a lot of companies out there. I mean, what are you hearing and saying out there as far as models go?
It's probably just going to continue on being the subscription model, because it brings a lot of revenue to these companies. They have trained us well to pay for those, and we're paying for those, and we don't even think. Sometimes it just gets deducted from our bank account or our Visa, and we don't even know it. We don't even remember
that's
it.
the
It's been for years.
Yeah, and I think that's the real key to this is it actually is more expensive in the long run, right?
Yes,
I think
it's definitely more expensive in the long
there's
run.
no secret there. But again, we're kind of in the middle. We're integrators, so we really don't have a say. If the company says, "Hey, we're going subscription and consumption model," okay, then it's up to the end user.
Well, in the good old when Office 365 just started rolling out, it was difficult to get companies to agree to migrate to the cloud. They had Exchange servers. There were people managing those Exchange servers, and you have to keep them updated and you have to keep them maintained. So it was a lot of work. But then, Office 365 rolled out, and all of a sudden you can have the same experience, almost the same experience when it first rolled out, but in the cloud. And then you don't have to manage anything. You don't have to patch anything. Exchange patches were almost weekly, because there were a big vulnerability on Exchange servers, of course. But companies did not trust it. It's like, I don't know if I trust the cloud. It's moving all our stuff over there. So it was, in the beginning, it was a struggle. Now it's like, oh, everybody just starts with the cloud. It's like, okay, we're just going to do Office 365 or Gmail.
Yeah, no, I'd say that it's becoming standard, the Office 365. A little bit of Gmail, but I would say Office 365 is kind of like standard at this point.
A lot of startups still like the G Suite.
Yeah, less expensive, right?
I think it's $1 less expensive from Office 365 from the
Really?
basic side.
Okay.
But people are just used to use Gmail. So if you use it at work and you use it in the office and you use it at home, it's the same thing. Um, Office 365 has a lot of more corporate, robust, options to it, but people still like the Gmail.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on unified communications? I mean, like the Teams or Cisco, or because no one has landlines anymore, right?
No one has landlines anymore. It's all a part of your unified communication. And most companies have two or three at this point. Because again, if they're using Office 365, they get Teams for free.
Right.
Well, it's included in the package. They can have, chats, they can have video calls, and it's a little complicated to do, but you can also route your phones into
Right. Yep.
into Teams, so you can make calls. So it's just a regular phone. So you have just one application that you do it for. But
Makes sense.
Everybody uses Zoom, right? Despite the fact that you have Teams, people will still pay for Zoom, which is not a cheap solution. That also has a phone. So you have two systems, and I know a lot of companies that at the minimum they have two different unified communication systems: one Teams and one Zoom.
And so, from your standpoint, what would be the benefits and what would be the negatives of having both versus one?
The major benefit in Teams is integrated with Office 365. It's the entire integration with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, and your email. It's all connected in the same ecosystem. So you're just using pretty much one product. Zoom, you have to create another kind of infrastructure, for instance. Zoom is just an example, to support that. So you need to create all of your phone numbers again, and you need to create all of the extensions, and it doesn't integrate with. So you can integrate it with Teams if there is an integration, but again, it's an integration. It's not a fluid kind of an experience. Teams is a little bit more difficult to manage because it's a Microsoft product, and they don't like to make things easy for some reason.
You're not the first person that said that, by the way. I've heard that before.
Well, have you ever read a Microsoft white paper? It's like 100 pages long that only like somebody that's been a 30-year software engineer would understand. They're very good in what they do, but they overcomplicate a lot of their systems, and they have a lot of systems.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What advice? What would be the final advice you would give folks out there that are getting into sales that want to build a career for themselves and do it the proper way?
My first advice will be play the long game. Leave instant gratification, especially if you're young in the field. Don't go in there thinking, I'm going to hit my sales goals in the first 3 months. I'm going to kill it in the first 2 months. I'm going to have 100 clients in the first 6 months. That's a good way to burn out. And that's a good way to alienate a lot of potential clients, because you're just treating them as numbers and not as people.
Yeah.
Right? I just need to call 100 people or 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people to make 100 sales. Play the long game. And especially on social media today. And it's something I always tell people I mentor to. Your social media outlets are your own. Your company doesn't own them. So if you are currently working for company X, yes, you can do company X content on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, if you use it. Not a lot of people use it right now. On your Twitter or Mastodon or wherever you are, you can use it to connect with people on a personal level. But always remember, again, that's your personal space, not the company. So if you want to do sales on it, that's great. Create content. Create meaningful content on your own cyber channels, on your own social channels. Talk about, if you're in the cybersecurity field, talk about cybersecurity. Talk about your journey into cybersecurity. Talk about solution in the industry. Don't try to push your solution right away there in your post or in your conversation. Let people get to know you. Let people get to know what you bring to the table. Tell a story. Create meaningful content, and people will come to you.
Yeah. Again, the long game, right?
Play the long game.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. So, well, Ron, I've really enjoyed this. Like I said, I thought you were funny on LinkedIn. I think you I like people with strong opinions, and you certainly have those.
Yeah, so I think the LinkedIn post that you saw was about salespeople, probably that I don't have 30 minutes to spare.
Yeah, that was the one.
Because 100 people talk to me each day, and each one of them wants between 15 and 30 minutes to sell their product. And I'm like, I have a day job. My job is not to talk to um, vendors. My day job is to actually do work. I talk to vendors when I need to, and right now I don't need to talk to a vendor. And that's why it's important to do the long game. It's also be creative, you know. Hey, Ron, we're selling a secure API solution. I would like 15 minutes of your time. Just think about how unoriginal that is, and think
Yeah.
about that the 100 more salespeople that send me the exact same thing.
Yeah, I've always, I was taught kind of young. You always need something interesting, something new to get back to a customer with versus, hey, do you have, and I've actually heard this from customers where they say salespeople just call up and say, hey, do you need a quote on anything? Not original at all, right?
No.
And it's hard to stand out if you're not doing that.
Yeah. And people think so, when you do I used to do government sales. When you do government sales, there's at the end of September, I think. That's the end of the federal, it's the end of the federal year end for purchasing. So a lot of people that sell to the government call on like September 29th. Hey, do you need anything? Do you need anything for me to sell you? Because they need to spend all their budgets. That doesn't work like that in the private sector. You can give me as many calls. You can give me as many discounts. Also, this thing about vendors talking to me about, we'll give you end year discounts. And I'm like, well, if my CFO says we don't sign anything right now, even if you're giving us 10, 20% discount, it's still a no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you where that comes. That doesn't come from the salesperson. I can speak from experience. That comes from up above.
Yeah, that comes from up above. Yes.
Some executive looking at a spreadsheet saying we need that deal, and I've gotten the calls. Hey, you offer them this offer, and I hate doing it because you sound like a used car salesman when you do it. But when your boss tells you to do something,
you do it.
You do it, and I cringe every time I had to. But wasn't my company, right?
Yeah.
So. Well, cool. Well, Ron, I really enjoyed having you on. Any final words of wisdom for the audience out there before we sign off?
Always keep going, but always play the long run.
I like that. I think that's great advice. Just patience, long game, don't pounce, and I think good things will happen in the long run.
Yep, good things will happen in the long run.
All right. Well, Ron, again, thanks for being on the show, and that's a wrap for another edition of Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. Until next time.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Oh, you're welcome, Ron.